So when you've watched this channel, right, I'm usually showcasing pedals that I really enjoy, that I think are really cool, or maybe I don't love them the most, but the artwork's really good, And what I'm loving about doing this YouTube channel is that I get a lot of people talking to me, asking me questions like, "Hey, how did you do this?" or "How did you do that?" And a lot of it has to do with the artwork, which was not something I thought would be the case since I'm not an artist. Uh, I just did this because I suck at computers. I sit in front of a computer at work all day. And when I get home, I don't want to be in front of a computer. So that's why I kind of started taking up painting pedals. So what I thought I would do is, like I said, you guys get to see a lot of the good stuff. I'm going to show you a lot of the shitty stuff. And I thought I would do is I got a whole mess of pedals right here next to me that we would talk about my pedal painting progress, okay? From when I started painting, which is roughly 2017, 2018, to I'm going to show the last pedal I just painted, which was last week's video, actually, was the Grumble Scuzz. So here we go. Let's get started. Now, I've been building pedals, so a little history about me. I've been building pedals, I think, since 2006, 2007. Now, off and on, I did take a long sabbatical, but I say I got really back into it heavily in 2017, which then kind of led into this channel, especially along with COVID. There was jack shit to do, so I started doing this kind of thing. So one of my first pedals was a kit, right? And this wasn't the first pedal, but this is one of the first pedals I ever painted. So this is a build your own clone 5-knob compressor. And this is such a great pedal. This lived on my board, unpainted, bare with painter's tape and like a Sharpie over it, right? Just something kind of so I knew what the hell all the knobs did. And then when I started kind of learning or wanting to learn how to finish pedals, I hit it. Look at I'm missing screws back here. I hit it with a white, and this feels like it's still primer. Actually, yeah, this is still primer. And then I hand painted. This was one of my first times hand painting anything. The Omni wrench from Ratchet and Clank. My son and I were playing a lot of Ratchet and Clank at the time. And the lettering, as you can see, which I'll have a bigger image up here, you can see that the lettering's terrible. I went right to where the holes were instead of counting for a knob size, which is still something I work on to this day. So there we go. That was one of my first paintings. I'll show you another one here. This is another build your own clone that I heavily modded. I just bought the board from them. Again, this was years ago. The back just says Yoshi Drive TS808 with high pass filter, low pass filter, and 6 clipping options. That must be what these switches are. And clipping options. Now, I painted this Yoshi on there, which I thought turned out really well. But it took forever. I mean, it really was a slow-going process. And this, for me, I can see that the sizes are a little bit off on Yoshi. He's a little bit of a fatter Yoshi, which is fine. And then I epoxy coated it, and the epoxy coat is yellowing, and I am very upset about that, which is one of the reasons I don't use epoxy coat. So from there, those aren't too terribly bad. Let me show you some of the worst shit I've ever painted. This is literally the worst stuff I've ever painted. And it's going to get redone because I think I'm going to do a video on like, hey, do you hate your artwork? Let's melt the pedal and restart it. This is a Mad Bean Peacekeeper. Now this is, I can tell by looking at it, this is an enclosure from Mammoth. So this must have been I think this was 2012, 2013 I built this thing. And this was one of the firsts where I was like, I'm going to do something cool and paint a rocket on there. That's dog shit. It is the worst. Definitely going to cut this out. But as you can see, I'm still learning how to letter and kind of get the hang of using a brush. That was something that took a really, really long time. And then we come over here to one of my favorite pedals probably of all time, the Mad Beans Mood Ring. I started I was, thinking, what would I paint for a mood ring? So for a while there, I was going by, what's the name of the board? what's an image that relates to the board? Let's try to paint something like that. So I tried to paint like a mountain thing, and then an alien thing, and then since I'm a dog shit painter, a stick man, and what appears to be a bowling ball. I think I was going for the moon. And then, of course, I epoxy coated this, so that lives in perpetuity, and I don't really like it. So from there, I started thinking, using my brain a little bit and thinking, man, I bet you even artists, when they start, probably use reference photos till they get the hang of things, right? And they do. But I wasn't, because, I'm the dumbest person in the world. So then I started going, all right, let's do stuff I know. I'll buy a red enclosure. I'll have to paint less, right? Because the red will be there. I'll put something red on it. So then my son and I were playing Angry Birds at the time. There we go. So that is just me outlining with black the basic image and then hand painting the little bit in there, leaving the red as the, like the bird's skin or whatever. Feathers. Yeah, idiot. And this turned out okay. I'm not terribly happy with it, but a lot of what I was doing was I would put brush lines on there with the black, and then if it didn't work out, I would take a knife and kind of like pull it away, because it's just acrylic paint. You can kind of get away with that. But you got to be quick on it, otherwise it'll leave like a residual mark on there. But I still hadn't gotten my lettering together yet, so that's what's going on there. And then from there, with doing that outline, I thought sometimes the outlines just looked really cool. So my thought was, if I could find iconic people and images or cartoons and put them on there, maybe people would, I wouldn't have to go so crazy on the painting. And it was more of a way to try to be able to paint more and get more experience behind myself. This one's so dusty. So this is a Dunlop fuzz that someone gave me the guts for, and I put it in a bare enclosure. It is incredibly dusty. I haven't used it in years. It sounds like shit. It's terrible. I'm actually going to gut it and put something good in there. But then I did this Krusty the Clown, which I love, and I think turned out really cool. But going with that same method, I took the tan or cream paint and started the outline. If I didn't like where something was, I cut it back with a knife, like a really sharp X-Acto knife, and kind of do it again. Very, very time consuming to get it right, but I really like the result on this, although it is a terrible sounding pedal. And then I started kind of upgrading my lettering too. You can't see it on here, but I do have black around all the cream letters. I'll see if we can get it in the photo, but probably not. Okay, so then from there, I started getting the hang of doing images, okay? So I started from Krusty the Clown and Red from Angry Birds, started doing Mario stuff. My son and I had jumped into this rabbit hole of Mario, and we're still swimming in it, So this is one of my favorites. This is where I really started mixing different colors instead of using standard palette colors, and getting my line work a little bit better. I'll put an image up there. You can kind of see the line work's not as fluid as it is now, because I'm almost like dot, 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 dot to create a line. I used to be so meticulous about this and spend so much time, and I just didn't have the experience to, get comfortable with it. But one of the things that comes out in this a little bit is the hammer itself. I do the outline in a gloss black, and then I use a flat black, which I love to do, and I've done it a lot, where I use a flat black and a gloss black, and that trend, like that contrast, looks really, really cool. And then I clear coated it, which took away all that contrast, or most of it. Which leads me to one of the last pedals I ever epoxy clear coated. And this is a pretty neat pedal. This is the Twill Deluxe from pedalpcb.com. It is a I don't know, Les Louise, or I don't know, something. It's some sort of tweed thing. But I love this image. So this is one of my favorite animals is a lion. I just love them. I think they're awesome. And I painted this killer lion on there, and I was so proud, because this is where I really started getting into mixing paint and shading and heavy line work, where the image isn't just a boring, stupid rocket. There's actual depth to the picture. And I spent forever on this image. And then, being so proud of it, I wanted to cover it up with epoxy to make sure it lasted forever. And as soon as that epoxy dried, all that definition and line work kind of disappeared. And I was like pretty pissed off because it was like 2-3 hours on the painting, and then you wait 3 days after you pour the epoxy, and then it's like, oh, this is terrible, you know. But this is also where I started doing better labeling. I like this style of labeling where it's a little bit blockier, but there's multiple layers to it, so I think it just looks a lot better. So that's one of the last ones I ever epoxy coated, and I'll never epoxy coat ever again. Now from there, I start kind of moving up pretty rapidly. In 2020, I keep track of everything I build. In 2020, I painted 180 petals. With COVID, I was off work for about a month, so I had plenty of time. You know, my kid and I would sit around and play Mario, and then, you know, what else are you going to do? So I just started painting. And then I kind of fell into the lettering that I've been doing consistently, that I vary just here and there, but this is a duo cast. Now, this is, again, where I really came together with the lettering that I like, with the black and white lettering. And then this is one of my favorite paintings because it's not a painting, it's a sticker. And it fit the knobs I already had on here, it fit everything, and I loved it. Again, a Mario themed, super original, right? Ton of Mario in this house because it's awesome. But this is one of the first ones where the lettering really came together. So from there, what I started doing is painting bare enclosures because I loved how clean that look was with the white and black lettering, and a nice complex image. I loved painting kind of just bare enclosures, which got me to do this one, which is, again, one of my favorite petals, one of my desert islands. This is the VFE Yodeler. The back is epoxy coated. The top will never be touched by any sort of clear coat. This is an image that I found from Freelance Fridge, which was the artist I talked about last video, who I think is just an incredible artist, a huge inspiration to me. And I sat and I did this in 2 sessions. I think this took me about 6 hours, where I did all the lettering, filled it in with primer, and then started doing all the different coloring and shading and line work and all this detail work. And it took me so long that when I was done, I was actually blown away that I did it. It just kind of proved like, okay, if I do 50 of these, I'm going to start getting decent at it. If I do 100 of these, I'm going to start getting even better. Oh, if I take more time, I can maybe put out a decent item, you know? Now, mind you, this is why I don't really sell petals all that often. I mean, I will if people ask me to, but like the amount of time that I put into painting a petal is ridiculous. I mean, it's because I'm not a great painter. I'm very meticulous on things, and something like this probably took me, I want to say this one took me about 6 hours. But I mean, the results are there. How beautiful is that, right? So from there, of doing clear, you know, just painting on bare backgrounds, I thought, man, it would be a really good idea is if I got myself a airbrush and started messing around with that. So this is a Effects Layouts Heartbreaker 2. Now, actually, no, let me show you one other thing real quick. So one of the things I've talked about in past videos, I got an airbrush and I started airbrushing, and then I started doing the whole enclosure. And I stopped doing that because it kept getting chipped right away, it kept, like, just coming apart. And one of the reasons I started airbrushing was I went from bare enclosures and I really liked painting on them, but I did want some backgrounds, I did want some colors. I got tired of using Tata, you know, primary colors, enclosures. So that's when I started airbrushing. Now, instead of airbrushing the sides and the back, which were just going to get damaged anyways, I tape everything off, and this is the process I still use to this day. I tape everything off the sides, and then I hit with primer, and then I hit with whatever airbrush color I want to use that day, or whatever mix of crap I have down there, and then I clear coat once, and then I do the image and the lettering, which is how I've kind of still gone to this day. And then this is a really neat bronze color, which I thought was awesome because you can't really, it has to be made like this, you know? You can't just, hey Tata, can you get me a bronze enclosure? It doesn't really work that way. Plus, I don't think they have a phone line you can call. I don't know. And then this is just a quick little monkey image. So this one came together really quickly because this is super simple, but it contrasts really nicely, and I thought it looked really cool. And then from just doing basic colors, I started getting into stuff like this. This is a Guardian Overdrive from pedalpcb.com. This is a green, a clear green, right? So this one was so much work. There's a layer of primer, a layer of silver, a layer of clear green, which gives the green kind of this metallic thing once it goes over the silver. Then there is a layer, or I shoot a like a metallic black around the sides there to give it this like antiqued look. Then there's a layer of clear coat, and then I hand painted on here this Guardian, and then the lettering. So quite extensive, but really the results are pretty cool. And here's another one I did. This is a Titania, where this was just super fun. I was just messing around one day, so I shot silver, then I did purple, and then that metallic black. I just actually poured it right into the top of the airbrush and mixed it around to give it the shading. And then I painted this little robot creature on there, which again, there's a flat black in the eyes, then gloss black to highlight, and then white. So quite a bit goes into it, but it turned out really well. So that's where I've kind of started to where I've come, right? So last week I did some painting, and I'll show you, this is where I'm kind of heading. I don't know. You know, I really don't plan anything. It's kind of a winging it like this video, but so the video you saw the last video you saw was the Grumble Scuzz. This was an image, again, from Freelance Fridge, great artist. I hit this with a orbital palm sander, and then did the lettering, did the outline, and I really like how this worked. Is I shot this because this was bare. I shot it with, or it wasn't built. I shot it with a acrylic matte gloss, or I'm sorry, acrylic matte clear coat. And once that dried, it dulled the image out, and then I hit it with a gloss, and it kind of brought back some to life, and it looks pretty cool. It doesn't have all the detail in it that I would like, but it really looks neat, and it is keeping it safe. So that's really nice. And then here's something else I'm working on, which is crackle paint. So this is a primer, right? And then a glow-in-the-dark paint. Once that dries, I hit it with this special crackle paint. And now I have glow-in-the-dark knobs, and this is a sonorous reverb from effectslayouts.com. And I'm not even going to paint anything on it. I'm just going to leave it as is. It's a simple 2-knob reverb, and I love it. So yeah, that's kind of a little bit of my progression. You know, I went from doing stuff like this piece of shit to arguably one of my favorite paintings, which is this dragon of mine, which again, I'll be buried with this or something of the sort. So there we go. I really wanted this video to showcase that I didn't start out being good at any of this shit. I don't think anybody's really great at things out of the gate. It took a lot of practice, a lot of hard work, and a lot of, you know, trial and error to get to where I am. And I hope this video can show that to everyone. So when people have more questions for me about artwork, we can, you know, I don't have to start every conversation with, I didn't start this good. It just took me a while, you know. So there we are. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Any comments or anything, let me know. Have a great week.